in 6 minutes starts.
Jen, I don't want to do it, but we got to go. Here's the news. We'll talk again.
Saying goodbye to our 41st president. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
I wanted to come and pay respects to a great man who dedicated his life to service.
He and many other Americans have waited in line to view George H.W. Bush's flag-draped casket.
He comes from a generation of people that treat people like people.
He's lying in state at the U.S. Capitol. Fox's Rachel Sutherland live in Washington.
Dave, President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump among the visitors paying their respects to the late president in the Capitol Rotunda. Vice President Mike Pence remembered him as a family man and a statesman.
His lifetime of service will be enshrined in the hearts of the American people.
Tomorrow, the Bush family will motorcade to a funeral at Washington National Cathedral. Among the dignitaries expected there, President Trump and the First Lady, and also Great Britain's Prince Charles, representing Queen Elizabeth. Dave.
Rachel, Congress and the White House have agreed to a 2-week extension to a deadline to keep the government funded, making it now December 21st. Their voices were heard. After all the protests and riots in Paris over planned tax increase, France's government relents. Fox's Simon Owen monitoring live from London.
Dave, French Prime Minister Edouard Philippe saying you would have to be deaf or blind not to see or hear the anger, announcing that the government is suspending for 6 months fuel tax increases that have prompted weeks of protests across France and rioting in Paris this past weekend. He said these decisions must restore peace and calm. French President Emmanuel Macron had said the taxes were needed to combat climate change. Dave?
Simon, a smaller protest led to change in Severance, Colorado.
I'm here today to hopefully change the law about throwing snowballs.
And 9-year-old Dane Best convinced the town board at a meeting last night to unanimously overturn a century-old ban on throwing snowballs, and the boy threw the first one legally right afterward outside. This is Fox News.
All money managers might seem the same, but while some give their clients cookie-cutter portfolios, Fisher Investments tailors portfolios to your goals and needs. Some only call when they have something to sell. Fisher calls regularly, so you stay informed. And while some advisors are happy to earn commissions whether you do well or not, Fisher Investments fees are structured so we do better when you do better. In other words, we're on your side. Maybe that's why most of our clients come from other money managers. So if you're in or nearing retirement, talk with us and find out why investors are switching to and staying with Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments. Clearly better money management. Investments in securities involve the risk of loss. Visit us at FisherInvestments.com to find out what we can do for you.
It is still not clear what the FBI and IRS were looking for when they raided the home of Atlantic City Mayor Frank Gilliam. Gilliam refused to talk to reporters as he left his residence Monday after agents had finished executing what they described as a search warrant. A judge has said the public cannot see court documents that likely spell out the motive for a family's murder in Colts Neck. Prosecutors say money was behind Paul Canero killing his brother and his entire family, but offered no details. The judge will keep the documents sealed until a grand jury investigation is completed. Shovels are in the ground for a massive project at Joint Base McGuire-Dix Lakehurst. It'll house 24 next-generation air refueling tankers.
At a time that there's a lot of talk about base closings in the country and realignment, this really helps achieve the base's future for quite some time.
New Jersey U.S. Senator Bob Menendez led the effort to secure the mission and the funding. He says the project will solidify thousands of jobs for years to come. I'm Eric Scott. This is the Town Square News Network.
It commutes with you every morning and evening, every drive down the shore, every after-school practice, every family road trip, every errand, and every exit on the turnpike of life. That's just how it rolls. Your car isn't just a car, and this isn't just insurance. It's NJM. We're here to help make every moment extraordinary and protect what's important. Get your quote now at njm.com.
The chilly air is back with partly to mostly sunny skies today. We've got a stiff breeze this morning, but winds will calm down around mid-afternoon. High temperatures limited to the lower 40s this afternoon. It'll be clear, calm, and cold tonight. Lows fall to the mid-20s. Mostly cloudy tomorrow, and there could be a late afternoon snow shower right along the coast. High temperatures for your Wednesday around 40. Mix of sun and clouds for Thursday with a stiff breeze, highs lower 40s. We're still hanging out around 40 degrees on Friday. I'm Chief Meteorologist Dan Zarrow on WPG Talk Radio 104.1.
From Harry Hurley Way in the world's playground to the broadcast pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame.
I want to congratulate my friend, Harry Hurley.
You're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation. Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 104.1.
Hey, thanks very much. Welcome back. Chuck Malamut is here. That's a very good thing. Chuck is the official, the exclusive financial advisor for the Hurley in the Morning program. And this program you're about to listen to is sponsored by Chuck Malamut, a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley. The information, views, and opinions expressed on this broadcast are those of Chuck Malamut, do not necessarily reflect those of Morgan Stanley or its affiliates. They are current as of the date of this broadcast, subject to change without notice. Neither the information provided nor any opinion expressed herein constitutes a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security. This presentation is for informational purposes only. Morgan Stanley Smith Barney, member SIPC. Chuck, good morning. And how about them Eagles?
Good morning, Harry. How are you?
Chuck, it took what now? What's the season? 12 weeks old?
To get two in a row.
To get two in a row. The defending Super Bowl champions took until week 12 to win their second game in a row.
Not going to throw cold water on it, but when Mark Sanchez is your quarterback, and
the Eagles beat the third-string quarterback
that literally signed on like 2 weeks ago and didn't even have. I'm convinced, did not have the whole playbook under control. But and I'm not making any excuses. I mean, Philadelphia. We could probably spend the next hour talking about Philadelphia football.
It makes next week very important, though.
It makes every week important.
The Eagles are going to play Dallas.
It's survival.
Yep.
I mean, you're at the point in time where you basically your backs are against the wall and you have to win. But
Chuck, I made a very bold prediction. I saw how the pre-markets were just absolutely ecstatic over the president calling for the 90-day truce with the tariffs in China. And I know that you don't live vicariously one day at a time. In fact, it's anathema to you. You're about time in the market, not trying to time the market. But yesterday was a beautiful day on Wall Street.
Harry, I kind of thought about this as I was getting everything, putting the final touches on for our last night for our discussion today. And it used to be so easy where...
Which, ladies and gentlemen, I received at 11:47 p.m. last night, just to give you an idea the hours that Chuck keeps.
Thank you, Harry. It used to be so easy to be able to sit back and sort of capture everything that happened over the past week and then where we think we go for the next couple of weeks and then some time after that. But now it seems like we're sort of at that warp speed where...
Speed of Trump.
Where you literally, you think about where we were last Tuesday. And all the strategists, all the analysts basically throwing cold water on the market and saying, look, sell any rally, get out now, nothing good is going to come of this. And the equity markets last week, the S&P, if you think about this for a minute, the S&P 500 had the best week of the year, increasing almost 5%.
Who would have thought that after
all sectors in positive territory. In other markets, there was a whole discussion, and we've seen what's happened with oil. Lowest level, dipped to its lowest level since 2017, and actually having its worst monthly decline in 10 years for the month of November. Now, since then, oil has rallied back, but I think the name of the game continues to be volatility. Investors absolutely have no problem if they're long. Volatility on the upside is great. We'll take it all day long. Conversely, on the flip side, volatility is probably one of your is probably not a good friend in a down market. But We think that investor sentiment is going to continue to improve somewhat modestly as we get through the end of this year. And the age-old question is, we're obviously in December. Are we going to have a Santa Claus rally? Or, is this sort of just, more of the same where, you 2 steps forward, 3 steps back?
Chuck, you have 11 items on your agenda today. I'd like to add a 12th, and we never do anything overtly political during Chuck's time, but geopolitical matters are fair game because they impact markets. Not all geopolitical events do, but some do. I thought the president was very strategic when he attacked the Fed chair. Now, a lot of people in the peanut gallery, you don't do that. They're separate. This is interference. This is terrible. But see if you interpreted this the way that I did. Did not the Fed chair make a rather helpful statement as basically, I don't know how anybody could say it's not a response to the president taking him to the woodshed, and didn't that also help markets?
Well, yeah, you think about it. He kind of walked it back, that being Chairman Powell in his comments last week, and literally that staged a remarkable rally in the markets because what investors are thinking about.
Do you agree with me the president created that moment?
I think he probably had a fair amount to do with it, and the more I listen to you and Kirk in particular about the way interest rates increase and how they increase and the velocity of increasing interest rates and when it in fact happens, doesn't necessarily bode well.
I got to look out the window. Is there a solar eclipse happening right now? Is there something going on? I don't know. A lunar eclipse. This is like taking me 27 years to hear this.
Well,
please continue. I should not have interrupted.
No, you didn't. You got my whole train of thought off, Harry. You want to finish?
No.
So I what it gets down to is it's been it's been rather challenging, with respect to the economy and rates, and I think what it gets down to, and while Powell didn't say it, is and I think if you look at the markets, Harry, it's just so incredible. I think it was. I'm trying to recall. Was it Wednesday? I don't remember what day of the week it was last week, but obviously in the middle of the day. I'm working, and I'm sort of to my left. You have my office is set up, and I'm looking at the three monitors. I'm talking with a client. I turn to my right, and I'm looking at the television monitor because we take the volume down during the day because it can be a distraction. And the two screens do not match. I mean, because the TV is off, maybe 30 seconds, and you just see this remarkable surge. On the monitors that we work from, the computer stations we use, and then it carries over into the TV, and you're immediately thinking, well, something's wrong here. It's remember the days of the fat finger in the market. It was just an awful sequence of events, and you're thinking it's not so bad because the market's moving in the right direction, and then literally within seconds we find out that Powell's statements, his bullet points were being released before his actual speech. Mm-hmm. And the market, virtually, took off. And the fact of the matter is, I think we've all convinced ourselves, and I think the economy is there, that we're going to get a rate increase in December at this meeting, the upcoming meeting. The question is where we go in 2019. And initially, I believe it was up to 4 rate hikes. The street, on average, predicts 1 to 2. And we've seen a lot of strategists come back and say no increases in 2019.
He actually said something that was like human. It was not like a computer, where he said something like, we have to be mindful about what's really happening on the ground, basically. I was like, wow, thank you.
Yeah,
I've been saying that.
And where is neutral? Are we at neutral? Are we close to neutral? Or are we not near neutral? And I think he said that we're close to neutral. Yeah. And I think that gives them room,
almost like he's putting the brakes on a little bit.
Yeah, to say, okay, we're going to move in December, by 25 basis points. So let's take a sort of a step back here, Harry, if we could.
Yep.
Get back to what we were going, to the talking points. So let's talk about yesterday as a perfect example. I mean, the futures, and I remember getting a text message from Mike, my partner, 6 p.m. Sunday night, a screenshot, futures up like 500.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Now, as we opened up, what happened, we were in the 400 point range, I think, with the Dow. It actually sold off somewhat, and we were
288.
But we were plus 125 during the day.
Right.
And then at the end of the day, we ended up, plus, almost 300. 10 of the 11 sectors of the S&P 500 were up. Energy, clearly the winner, up 2.3% for the day.
Why did oil surge 4%?
Well, what happened is, there was news that there's going to be an agreement with respect to production, coming from the far, coming from oh gosh, I'm having a brain freeze here. Help me here. From Saudi Arabia and Russia, they agree to continue their cooperation with respect to oil production. So as a result of that,
this speaks to what we talked about a week or two ago. In that three people: Trump, Russia, and Saudi Arabia control.
Yeah. Now Canada agreed at the same time. They're going to reduce their output. And that supported, the bullish price action that we saw, during the day with oil. So, oil prices, energy, they're going to remain in focus this week because there's an OPEC meeting on Thursday. So that'll be very interesting to see where that goes. But the actual...
Well, they're going to agree to a production cut. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah. So what happened was, the advance that we had, imagine if you sold your securities last Monday or Tuesday. When we walked out of here.
That's why you say time spent in the market. Don't try to time the market.
We had 1,000 point move in the Dow.
By the way, this will be one of those days, when you talk about, hey, Harry, do you know 4 days if you didn't participate in these 4 days?
5 days, correct,
right.
yes.
This is going to be one of those days.
Kind of put it in perspective here. So going into yesterday, the S&P was up 5.1% year to date. 4.9% of that, Harry, is what we put in last week. So if you took your eye off the ball or said, I need to get out of equities, I'm going to time it when it's the right time to get back in, you basically blew a 5%, 5% gain on your securities. And that's pretty consistent with all the U.S. indices. The Dow is up 5.3%, year to date's up 5.6%. NASDAQ up 5.7.
And a week ago, all the gains for the year were gone.
We were slightly positive, slightly positive. Remember the prediction that we made at the end of last year, high single digit, low double digit. Mm-hmm. So Harry, we're within earshot. We're not far. And
if we get a Santa Claus rally,
and that's the question.
It's going to save the year. Chuck, first break. We're going to be right back. Don't go away. The official financial advisor for the Hurley in the Morning program continues. Chuck Malamut. To reach Chuck, it is simple to do, and tell him that I sent you, please. Call the Malamut Group. Chuck is the managing director. 609-383-2010 for all of your financial planning needs. 609-383-2010.
Early in the morning. WPG Talk Radio 104.1. When you listen to WPG Talk Radio 104.1, you're tuning in to living a healthier lifestyle. WPG Talk Radio 104.1 and Virtua Health are united on one mission for a healthier, happier New Jersey. Virtua Health is so much more than just hospitals. Did you know they also offer sports medicine, nutrition, weight loss, and fitness services? Anytime you listen to WPG Talk Radio 104.1, visit WPGTalkRadio.com. Or when you join the 1450 Club, you'll be connected to health and wellness information, featuring exercise and nutrition tips and health risk assessments. And you can sign up to win concert tickets, gift cards, and more. Together, Virtua and WPG Talk Radio 104.1 have set out on the mission to make good health even more rewarding. Be well, get well, stay well. Virtua for life.
Ever wonder why Europeans seem to speak so many languages? Maybe it's because they use Babbel, the #1 selling language learning app in Europe. Babbel's award-winning technology gets you speaking right away, whether you're learning Spanish, French, or German. And best of all, you'll remember what you've learned.
I always thought I was bad at languages, but after using Babbel, I can tell you I was just taught the wrong way.
Using Babbel's 10 to 15-minute lessons, you can be speaking confidently in your new language within weeks.
I was amazed that I could start having real-life conversations right away. It was so fast. Now I'm speaking Spanish. Woohoo!
No wonder Babbel is the #1 selling language learning app in Europe. Try it for yourself and see why Babbel is the quick way to get conversational in a new language, like Spanish, French, or more. You can try Babbel for free. Go to Babbel.com or download the app and try it for free. That's Babbel, Babbel.com, or download the app to try it for free. That's Babbel.com.
Shore Medical Center is proud to be your community hospital. They go to extraordinary lengths to deliver the highest quality of care in a safe and compassionate environment. They are pleased to provide 6 centers of excellence specializing in cancer, cardiovascular, neurological, orthopedic, emergency, and maternity and pediatric health care. And they are extremely proud of their affiliations with Penn Cardiology, St. Christopher's Hospital for Children, and Mayo Medical Laboratories. Shore is certified by the Joint Commission as an advanced primary stroke center and designated by the State of New Jersey's Department of Health and Senior Services as a primary stroke center. Shore is also certified by the Joint Commission for hip replacement, knee replacement, and spine surgery. Shore is one of only 26 hospitals in the country to earn Plaintree's prestigious gold level certification, and they earned an A rating for quality and safety from the Leapfrog Group for 8 consecutive rating periods. To schedule an appointment or for more information, visit shoremedicalcenter.org.
Shore Medical Center, healthcare at its best.
Happy holidays and Merry Christmas. I'm Frank Formica, owner of Formica Brothers Bakery, Atlantic City, New Jersey. I invite you to share Formica family traditions with customers, family, and friends this holiday season. With cookie trays for Christmas, our famous cranberry walnut raisin breads, pumpkin dinner rolls, cannoli, biscotti, tomato pie, and handcrafted Italian breads, there is something for everyone at Formica's this holiday season. Visit our cafe at 2310 Arctic Avenue, Atlantic City, located next to the Walk, or on our website, formicabrothersbakery.com, for more information. We will be open on Christmas Eve until 5 p.m. On behalf of my fellow business owners, I encourage us all to shop local. May you find this holiday season wrapped with family traditions as we celebrate the gift of family and friends. Thank you, and Merry Christmas again.
We're back. It's early in the morning, 22 minutes past the hour, with Chuck Malamut, the official, the exclusive financial advisor for the Early in the Morning program. A reminder for all of your financial planning needs, turn to Chuck, 609-383-2010. He is the managing director of the Malamut Group at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office, 609-383-2010 for all of your financial planning needs. Let me take this opportunity, Chuck, and you can appreciate this in our old lives. This is something we would be paying a lot of attention to. And as a broadcaster in the metro market, I pay a lot of attention to it still in this iteration, and that is to welcome the Tri-State Realtors to the Convention Center and to Atlantic City. This is obviously great business. Chuck, you and I talk about how is Atlantic City going to continue to thrive, and that's bringing great business in when it otherwise wouldn't be here.
Yeah, I mean, Harry, you think about what's happened, with the resurgence of Atlantic City. We were just there last week. It's just remarkable. I mean, it's difficult to get around sometimes and navigate because of the traffic. That's a whole really good sign. And, we're already beginning of December. So, as you know, this is the tough times. If it's a matter of if we get decent weather and don't get socked in with a lot of snow, I think the winter could be relatively good for Atlantic City.
What does your gut tell you? And you uniquely, I think, can speak to this because you had a successful career, very highly successful career in the industry, and you still pay attention to it to the extent that you can. Atlantic City downsized from 12 to 8 during the Great Recession, and now is gone from 8 to 10. How does that grab you in terms of right sizing?
Well, I think the numbers, should be okay, but I saw a recent report that was issued where profitability was down for the quarter, but I think a lot of that is just that ramp up as you bring these 2 new facilities on, and I think when you look at is the market growing or is it being cannibalized? I mean, that's truly the question at hand, and we're not going to know that, Harry, for probably another 3 or 6 months. Because, when you bring a property on, it just, it's not instantly successful. It takes time to grow. It takes time to grow your market share. Are you taking from other facilities? And you go back to the days when we were in the business, with Trump having not one, not two, but 3 properties and virtually competing against himself. And you look back and say, wow, that was really probably not the right thing to do. But I think 10 is probably a good number right now.
Throw World's Fair in there, you even have
no, it's 4. a 4, yeah. So
I agree with that, though. That was very, very tough. The one good thing is, and I don't want to get away from your show to say too much more about this, the one good thing is that Hard Rock coming to Atlantic City, they did not have a game plan to cannibalize. They were bringing their brand, their database. I think we're fortunate in that respect. Had it been 2 properties that purely would be cannibalizing, I think the number would be rough.
Yeah, I think the question at hand when you look at their monthly win, it's obviously they wanted to be in a higher spot than they are, yes. But I think that's a matter of time of being able to grow your market or your market share. So only time will tell on that.
By the way, I'll say one quick thing. Felt bad for Matt Harkness because I don't think he broke the place in 2 weeks. I thought that was kind of rough. But in any event, let's go back to your agenda.
All right. So, Harry, volatility. That's sort of in addition to the talking points today. You think about the VIX and where the VIX is now. It settled around 16 at the end of the close yesterday. It averaged around 13 from May through September this year. But I think this is what gets investors anxious is the fact that the S&P's moved plus or minus 1% virtually over the last 38 trading days. 50% of the time, 19 days we've had moves of 1% or more, plus or minus. And I think, as we talked about, volatility, is here to stay. I mean, it's not going to disappear.
Is this the opposite of last year? Last year was no volatility. This year is a lot of volatility.
Well, I think the average volatility, please don't quote me on this, but on an average year, the volatility, the number of days that the market moves plus or minus 1% is in excess of 60 days. So think about 250 trading days roughly each year. 60 of those days we're moving plus or minus 1%. 2017, I think we moved, it was less than 10 days.
Yeah.
So
amazing.
All of us became very complacent. And on the ups, when you're moving in the right direction and you're long in the market, the world is a wonderful place to be.
And how fast does time go? I mean, literally, we're entering in the very near future the 3rd year of the Trump presidency.
We are, and you know what's going to happen as you get closer to that 4th year.
Oh, it's going to be crazy.
And we won't talk about fake news because I think you can spend enough time talking about that on other times. But
my experience is, though, usually that year people try to make it the best they can because they want to win again. And so it can be a really good year.
Yeah, and this year, 2019, by historical standards, should be a very good year.
And the reason is because for it to bake in, people have to feel. The reason George H.W. Bush, other reasons too, but we were growing at 4.6% GDP, but there's that lagging effect. The American people didn't feel it. The media wasn't saying it. The American people didn't feel it, so it wasn't real.
Yeah, and speaking, it's a great segue, Harry, because the next thing I want to kind of talk about is economic growth. We think it's going to remain solid, but trade issues, and I mean, granted, what happened over the weekend, it's sort of is that the pause that refreshes, or is this the beginning of some very, very serious discussions and negotiations? And I believe more the latter than the former. But
I think you're doing 90 days is to fix it, to make it, to do something positive,
to get a track
right
effectively,
not just to have bad news in 90 days.
Right. So we think the global economy for the most part is pretty solid, especially compared to similar market corrections that we've seen, Harry, over the past few years. Trade obviously represents a real serious threat at this point in time. Some of the world, is currently experiencing a slowdown. We think the global economy, for the most part, is still sort of in that expansion mode. So think about it. Escalating trade war, that could in fact suppress global growth. Think about if you're running a company right now, and you are concerned about your supply chain, and you are importing, goods from China. I mean, do you as the CEO of this organization, do you try to pick up and move operations to other countries?
Because you don't know what your cost of business is going to be.
Exactly. So I think what is happening here is
of course, that's uncertainty.
And then uncertainty, when a CEO makes these sorts of statements about the future of where they're going to be, over the next year, and they throw up their hands and say, "We're really not sure." So, the fact that the tensions have eased, fairly significantly between us and China. But we've had too many false starts, Harry, of all these discussions and this heightened rhetoric, to look past it. I think it'd be foolish if we said everything is going to be wonderful, because at the end of the day, there's a lot, as you mentioned, that we need to kind of work through. But having said all that, we still think, Harry, 2019 GDP should exceed 2%. Should exceed. Now, granted, that's not quite where we've been, but any signs that we see with respect to trade, moving in the right direction, is going to obviously push that estimate higher.
Halftime break. We're going to come right back. One more power segment straight ahead with the exclusive financial advisor for the Hurley in the Morning program, Chuck Malamut. He is the managing director. He leads his team, the Malamut Group, at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office for all of your financial planning needs. Chuck's phone number is 609-383-2010, 609-383-2010. When we come back, we're going to get Chuck's take in terms of corporate earnings, much more. Straight ahead, we'll be back in a few minutes.
Radio 104.1 is bringing a bus full of listeners to New York City on Monday, December 10th for an exclusive behind-the-scenes tour of Fox News Channel. You'll get to sit on the big Fox and Friends couch, meet some of your favorite Fox News personalities, and more. For a chance to hop aboard the WPG bus for a tour of Fox News in New York City on December 10th, download the WPG Talk Radio app and tap on the Fox Trip button.
At Ocean First Bank, our first thought is you. We put you first in all we do. Community banking for a century. We treat you like your family. Whatever you need, whatever you dream, let's make it a reality. Ocean First Bank, putting you first.
For a limited time, earn up to $200 when you open a Simply Great checking account. The account with unlimited domestic ATM fee rebates. Just use your debit card, make a mobile check deposit, and keep your account open for at least 6 months. It's that easy.
Whatever you need, whatever you dream, let's make it a reality. Ocean First Bank, putting you first.
Certain rules and restrictions apply. Visit oceanfirst.com for complete details. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Opportunity Lender.
Let's think about customization, presented by Liberty Mutual Insurance. Liberty Mutual customizes your auto insurance so you only pay for what you need. So why aren't more things in life customizable? Why isn't a burger cheaper when you ask for no onions? I don't want them, so shouldn't you deduct the price of the onions, right? Otherwise, I'm paying for the onions, but I'm not receiving any onions. Go to libertymutual.com for a customized quote and you could save.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Coverage is underwritten by Liberty Mutual Insurance Company and affiliates, Equal Housing Insurer.
You wouldn't put a square peg in a round hole, so why would you deploy a traditional firewall in a modern decentralized network? Firewalls have new requirements for businesses leveraging SaaS-based applications and public cloud platforms like AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud. We're in the cloud generation now, so your firewalls have to be engineered to fit right in. Reclaim your cloud network. Try a Barracuda Cloud Generation Network or application firewall free at barracuda.com/firewalls.
I really thought I would die of stress long before the cancer, because the diagnosis brought this avalanche of worries. The money, the travel, the burden on the family. One night I called the American Cancer Society, and they helped me map out a plan. Got me free rides to chemo and even a free place to stay during treatment. They took away those other fears, so I could rest up for the real fight.
Please give at cancer.org.
Wendy's knows when it comes to fries, the more the better. Because people just can't get enough of their favorite hamburger sidekick. So for a limited time, Wendy's is giving you any size fry for just $1. That's a small, medium, even a large order of natural cut sea salted goodness for just $1. Any size you like for the same little price. But a deal this good won't last long. So get any size fry for $1 from Wendy's today.
At participating Wendy's for a limited time. A la carte only. Excludes top fries. Price and participation may vary in Alaska and Hawaii.
This is Atlantic City's talk station. WPG Talk Radio 104.1.
Hey, thanks very much. 35 minutes past the hour. Chuck Malamut is here. All about your financial matters. Chuck is the exclusive financial advisor for the Hurley in the Morning program, the managing director of his team, the Malamut Group, at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office. 609-383-2010 is the phone number for all of your financial planning needs. Think about that if you're building for college, for vacation planning, for retirement planning. 609-383-2010. Turn to Chuck. Chuck, what is your take on corporate earnings?
So, Harry, in spite of what we just talked about with respect to to trade, is that and you have a fair amount of economic uncertainty. Corporate earnings, has been a relatively bright spot here through 2018. Hiring levels have been strong. As we've talked about more jobs than people. The corporate profits have been stellar for the most part, and a lot of that is due to the 2017 tax bill that basically got inked at the end of last year. However, as we look into the future, potentially higher interest rates, stronger dollar, wage pressures, and we always talked about what happens to wages and well, that sort of tipped the economy over. So expectations for the coming year, are very, very, I guess the best word I'll use is clouded. How's that sound, Harry? Because we're really not sure. We think corporate earnings will be similar to the global economy.
Does clouded equal uncertainty?
Yeah, it does.
Markets don't like that.
And we do expect a slowdown, with an overall positive trend, but we're not going to get, and I think it's baked into the market right now. We're not going to get those earnings year over year.
Is this a natural cyclical development after robust growth type of situation? Nothing to be alarmed about?
Well, it is to a certain extent, but think about for a minute, what's happened with interest rates. Yeah. I mean, how many rate hikes have we had now?
Too many.
And as a result of that,
Do you think we've had too many too soon?
Yeah, I'll give you an answer. I'll give it one word. I'm going to say yes. I too many. I think we have. I think we're at the right number, but the speed and the way it was accomplished, I think the markets became very, very unsettled.
That's exactly how I feel. I'm not concerned about the number. I just don't know what the rush was. When you don't raise interest rates for 10 years, why did we go into like Star Trek Enterprise warp speed and do this? I just don't understand it. And I think they have succeeded in potentially slowing our great economy down.
So that kind of leads me to the next point I want to talk about, Harry, which is interest rates and inflation. So we think they will move slightly higher as we get into 2019.
Wonderful.
We expect some cooling in economic growth we just kind of talked about.
Now, the inflation's good for colas, though, right?
Well, it is, but
then things are costing more, so it really.
But it is more expensive. Yeah. We think monetary policy is going to remain relatively on track. We think because of where we are in the election cycle, we don't think there's going to be a lot of changes with respect to legislation before the 2020 elections, basically meaning that the current fiscal situation that we have right now is likely going to continue. We don't think tax rates. We don't think spending rates are going to change in 2019. At the same time, we think that the Fed is going to continue to slowly move from accommodation to tightening. Now, I think that's pretty evident that they're going to probably come with 25 basis points. In December, we think that 2019 is going to have slightly higher interest rates and a little more inflation than we had in 2018, but we don't think that neither one of those should be a significant impact to the economy or the equity markets. You think about what happened, what we experienced in October. I mean, there was not only did you have uncertainty, but you had, for lack of better words, you had hysteria. We do think that rising interest rates and inflation are going to complicate the environment that we live in right now. And
but as your protege, you've taught me that this would result in more upside in equities.
Yeah, so good point. And one of the things we were going to kind of talk about is the returns that we see in the equity markets, versus the bond market. So up until last week, Harry, the S&P was flat. I mean, we weren't negative at all for the year, but we were just marginally positive. Now, as we mentioned before, we're up about 5%. But on the flip side, the Barclays Ag, that's the bond index. It basically, tracks, most of fixed income indices, down 1.8% year to date. And that was through last Friday. We have not had a negative total return in the same calendar year for both equities and bonds over the last 40 years. So think about that, Harry. So
wow.
So it's been starting like in 1978 through ended 2017
that's incredible.
That the way the returns work, if equities are up, fixed income prices could be down, but they've never in lockstep have had a negative return within the same year. Now,
Chuck, before we go further, and I want to get it right back to you, I want to highlight something that for 27 years you've talked about: proper asset management, proper asset allocation, time in the market, not trying to time the market, but rather time spent in the market. The difference between a flat S&P or barely up and now a little more than 5% up is how many trading days?
Well, it's 5.
Yeah. So if you were trying to time the market, so to all Chuck's investors listening right now,
and it's 5 days over a decade, actually.
Right. Those are deeds, not words. It's so important.
So you think you think about you get a 500 point, 700 point move in the markets, and it's we always talk about whether it's institutional investors, retail investors, everybody tries to get the same side of the boat together. Positive and negative, and as a result of that, you get a positive day when you least expect it. When you think the market's going to continue, to flow in a negative direction, and actually the opposite happens, and you get some news flow.
Which is why you stay in the market and you don't try to time the market, because if you're in, you'll capitalize on that. If you're in
and out, I mean, and you think about, look, I have not seen a successful trader in 32 years, and it's like they don't build these extraordinary, massive, beautiful casinos in whether it's here or another jurisdiction for you to go in and win money
every time.
Okay, and you only hear about how wonderful you do, but that's just human nature. I mean, that doesn't matter where it is, whether it's in the equity markets or in the casinos or sports betting or a combination thereof. So
I jumped in on you during equities versus bonds. Are you done equities and fixed income?
So we did in fact cover that. One of our favorite topics, Harry, is mortgages and refis.
Yes.
And mortgage rates. And this is I read this, Harry. I said I have to talk to your listeners about this, because it's just nothing short of amazing. Cash out refis, as they're referred to, HELOCs, home equity lines. that's when a homeowner takes a new mortgage that's larger than their previous mortgage, and they basically pocket the difference. They take that cash. That peaked in 2006. American homeowners took out $320 billion of home equity during that rising housing market. Okay. Now, the good news is, on a comparative basis, in the third quarter of 2018, we just worked through, homeowners pulled out just $15 billion of their home equity through these cash out refis. And now you think about,
because values had gone down?
Well, you think about it's more challenging to borrow now than it was back, and you refer to it oftentimes as the ninja loans. No income, no person. They would just lend money to anybody. I think that had a lot to do with it. Obviously, what happened with the housing market. The fact that it is very, very difficult, to borrow now than it was, say, 10, 15, 20 years ago. But the other thing is there is a slowdown. I mean, it's been pretty evident. I mean, I'm not going to pick on a particular company, but Toll Brothers reported today, and their earnings were okay at best. But the median sales price of existing homes sold, nationwide increased 3.8% year over year from October, and that's just as of October 2018. Harry, that's the smallest year-over-year growth in median sales price that we've seen since March 2012.
Do you think this is a precursor to something?
Well, if you take a look at the two-year bond, and you take a look at the 5-year bond, we basically crossed over right now. I mean, the curve is inverted. The 10-year that all of us, remember we went from 3 to 3.25 fairly quickly. Mm-hmm. And right now, that 10-year is now down to 2.95%. So, I mean, it's good news if you're going to borrow, but you think about where the 2 and the 5 and the 10-year are today, and the fact that the curve, and again, the way you look at it, I mean, it could be inverted for a matter of minutes or hours, and then
but when we go inverted, what are we susceptible to?
Well, typically, what happens is when the yield curve inverts, it's a sign of recession on its way. So, and I'm not trying to throw cold water on this. I'm just merely stating, what's happened with fixed income, and there's always sort of that tug of war. Like, who's right? Is it the bond market, or is it the stock market?
And we haven't shown any propensity to have 2 quarters of no growth.
No. So I mean, it is, you think about the growth that we had in 2018, and when you say, well, 2019, if we grow it 2%, I guess that's reasonable, based on the year that we just came off of, but
the new norm.
It's not. I was doing everything I could, Harry, to kind of avoid that, and you see, you got a mind like a steel trap.
But 2% would not ever, in any universe in America, equal recession because we would be growing.
Correct, and so when you look at the 10-year today actually is at 2.96, and it was just not too long ago. Like I said, we were at 3.25. So. Why? You think about that kind of move, and the bond market is basically signaling that we could potentially have some issues at hand here.
Chuck, here's something that I wasn't expecting to see on your agenda for today: credit card debt. That it has regained popularity.
So remember, Harry, before the Great Recession, you on average, and your listeners on average, will receive anywhere from 1 to 3 pieces of marketing literature every day in your mail.
Yep.
Now you get it in mail, and you get it via email about balance transfers and 0% interest, but there's a transaction fee that ranges, say, 3 to 4%, and remember, people were virtually moving from one credit card to another credit card to sort of delay making those payments. But when the Great Recession, March 2009, right, is basically March 6th, I think, was the date of reckoning in the stock market.
666.
Correct. So credit card debt in May of 2008, so that was basically 9 months in front, peaked at $1.02 trillion. Okay. And that was before, obviously, we ended up with the global real estate crisis.
And in those days, Chuck, people were having their credit limits reduced. Some were taking the card away completely, and then you were just left to pay the debt off. There were a lot of things going on back then.
Home equity lines were being cut or reduced or called, or a combination thereof. So in April, we actually moved down in light of everything that happened in the world, and in particular our economy. We ended up moving down, Harry, to $832 billion in April 2011. Okay, so that's a good move. However, if we look at credit card debt at the end of the summer, $1.04 trillion. So now we are higher than where we were back in May of 2008. So I think that's something that we all need to be aware of, because what is happening now? I mean, how many pieces of mail do you receive every night when you check your mail?
I totally agree. I misread. I thought this was a different topic than it is. They're all over the place. You're getting checks that you can write off of credit cards. You're getting offers for new credit cards. Remember, in the old days, they used to actually send you the credit card. They had to stop doing that. So I totally understand the topic now, and I absolutely agree with what's happening. Now, of course, the downside is going to be that people can get in trouble again, and it's going to happen.
That's the concern, is the fact that it is relatively easier now than it was just 3 to 5 years ago.
So the spigot is looser.
The spigot is looser, and I think, unfortunately, that does create potential issues.
I also think they're getting very creative in terms of products that they offer. It's very tempting when a check arrives and it says you don't have to pay anything for a year, or 0% interest rate for 2 years. People will take that money. That's cheap money. Until all of a sudden it's not.
Well, it's really not cheap money, because with a credit card, with a balance transfer, you take a check or whatever it may be, there's transaction fee.
Of course.
And those transaction fees range anywhere from 3 to 5%. Mm-hmm. And then you have a scheduled payment that needs to be paid 12, 18, 24 months, whatever it may be. So
I'm just pulling out my old banker hat, and I used to speak to a lot of people, and if that kind of money was available, people would often say, I need it now, I'll worry about that later.
Yes, and now
if they can get $5,000 and there's a $500 fee, then they got $4,500 and they're happy.
We oftentimes talk about this, Harry, when we're meeting with 401k participants, because typically to borrow in a 401k plan, you need to have minimum loan is $1,000. To borrow $1,000, you need $2,000 in the account. You can borrow half of the value. You pay interest back to yourself every pay period, and those rates they're around prime. Mm-hmm. That you lock them, when you take the loan. But the record keeper is going to charge anywhere from $50 to $125 to initiate that transaction. So you think about, Harry, you have a $2,000 account balance, you want to borrow $1,000, but it's going to cost you $50. Well, so you're $50, out of the gate short, and then you have to pay, let's call it 5%.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, most people in this country really do not do a good job planning.
And they don't care about that. They don't care about that cost, because if they need it now, that's just a cost for doing business, and they'll deal with that.
And I think the last bullet point I wanted to kind of talk about was we oftentimes talk about how if you ran your business, imagine Harry Hurley Inc. or Harry Hurley
LLC.
LLC. I'm looking for the actual right verbiage here. But anyway, Harry Hurley LLC.
Yeah, which exists. I'm Harry Hurley Marketing Communications.
You run your business. If you ran your business like the government ran their business, you'd be out of business.
We wouldn't be in year 27.
So you and Denny were talking, about past presidents, and I found that to be rather interesting over the last half hour before I came in here this morning. Harry, I looked at this and I fell out of my chair. This was just simply amazing. So So Franklin Roosevelt, he proposed Social Security back in 1935, and you think about what was the purpose of Social Security back then.
It was so that you had a retirement,
and it was and to get you to the next step. But it wasn't the be all end all.
Wasn't supposed to be everything you would need in your retirement years.
So
it was a supplement.
Yeah. So it's like anything else. You make long term projections. So when
did people used to be able to live on their Social Security, Chuck?
Not entirely,
okay.
but a larger percentage could. So the projection that was put in place in 1935 is that by 1980, or 45 years into the future, Social Security expenditures would reach $1.3 billion. $1.3 billion, 45 years into the future. Do you want to take a shot at what the actual number was in 1980?
Well, it had to be trillions.
149. The actual Social Security outlays in 1980 for that year.
Oh, for 1 year. I thought we were talking about over time.
No, for $149 billion.
So it was like 4 times.
No, Harry. $1.3 billion was the assumption, the projection.
And it was
45 years into the future.
10 times.
$149 billion. No, not 10 times. It was 140 times. So you think about the analyst estimates represented less than 1%.
So in other words, when you do your job that well, you should be fired.
You deserve to be promoted.
Oh my God, that's terrible.
So think about So their projections were less than 1% of the actual. Now I know that a lot of things can happen, Harry, in 35 years or 45 years. I get it, but do you think they could have gotten a little bit closer?
It shows how bad they are at what they do.
It's just awful.
Because they knew how many people there were.
They understood.
They know how many people were
hitting
retirement
They understand
age.
the birth rate. They understand the mortality rate. They should understand inflation to a certain degree.
To me, you can only be that wrong on purpose, not by accident.
Well, maybe
they didn't want to float what the real number was.
Maybe the old expression "a broken clock is right twice a day," so they got it wrong for the rest of the times during the year.
We are at the time limit, Chuck. It is awesome. Thanks for the actual overtime for all of your financial planning needs. Chuck Malamut, the official financial advisor for the Early in the Morning program. Make him yours, 609-383-2010. Thank you, Chuck.
Harry, thanks for having me.
Really great stuff. We'll be back. Shore Medical Center presents really some very talented clinical registered dietitians. Brian Cahill, the Director of Marketing and Public Relations. We have a wonderful hour coming up in just a few minutes.
Early in the morning, WPG Talk Radio 104.1 and on the WPG Talk Radio app.
Health Update with Robin Stoloff, brought to you by the law offices of Richard A. Stoloff, Linwood, and Philadelphia.
We all know how busy the holiday season can be, and one of the first things to go is our fitness routine. And it's just what we need the most for energy, stress reduction, and calorie burning, especially after Aunt Mary's famous pecan pie. So for a quick and efficient workout, experts suggest high-intensity interval training, or HIIT. Interval training involves bursts of intense activity followed by periods of less intense work. For instance, if your exercise is walking, you might incorporate short bursts of jogging into your regular walks. It can be done on cardio machines and with weight training, and interval lengths can be varied according to your level. Some of the benefits: you will burn more calories in less time, you'll improve your aerobic capacity, and you will still have time for your holiday shopping. I'm Robin Stoloff for Health Update.
Health Update with Robin Stoloff, brought to you by the law offices of Richard A. Stoloff in Linwood. Attention you expect, results you deserve.
Gold is a better way. Gold is a better way. Gold is a betterway.com. Imagine doing business with a company that seeks to add massive value before asking for your business. Hi, my name's Adam Barata. I'm the co-owner of Advantage Gold and the author of the now national best-selling book, Gold is a Better Way. This book may not be for you, but if you're like most people, you'll be blown away when you learn why gold is set to soar to over $10,000. And as a bonus for hitting the bestsellers list, I've been gifted 250 copies from my publisher. If you have an IRA or 401k with over $100,000, I want to send you a copy of the national best-selling book. You can buy it on Amazon or go to Barnes & Noble or be among the first 250 people to reply. Just text the word bestseller to 49776. That's best.
Hey, Chuck, your mic is still on. Thank you for a great hour. Much
Harry,
appreciated.
Thanks. And listen, I'm going to keep my fingers crossed for you. I hope you have a better week and with your football prowess picks.
Isn't it nice that I put your mic back on so that you could take that swipe at your little brother? You're very kind.
Harry,
I will say this. You spend more time highlighting my bad weeks than you do extolling the virtues of my
Well, that's because
weeks.
we're brothers from a different mother. That's all. It's all good.
So you can share the bad
all good.
news. You get away with it. Thanks, Chuck. And a reminder, if you haven't signed up for the Fox trip to New York City, the deadline is tomorrow at 10 a.m. Shore Medical Center presents next.
WPGG Atlantic City, WENJ 97.3 HD3 Millville. Everything you need to know in 6 minutes starts now.
Americans are standing in line to say goodbye. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. As former President George H.W. Bush's flag-draped casket lies in state at the U.S. Capitol.
I thought it would be a great opportunity to witness history.
He was a true Renaissance man, a great gentleman, a great diplomat, a great ambassador for the United States.
The current president is among those who've paid respects. Fox's John Decker live at the White House.
Word from the White House that President and Mrs. Trump will attend tomorrow's funeral.